The New York Rangers ended up hiring their 38th head coach in franchise history, and with that being said, there is definitely a question on whether or not the New York Rangers made the right move. Did they go out there and hire the best option and the best kind of fit for this team with where they're at right now? That's what we're going to kind of take a look at and talk about in today's video, because I think going into this kind of coaching search here, once we all knew that Peter Laviolette was officially going to be fired, there was a question on whether or not this team should go after maybe a younger head coach, like a first-time NHL head coach like a David Carl, a Jay Leach, a Jeff Halpern, because there are some good names out there who have some experience, whether it's coaching in the NHL as an assistant or, coaching obviously with, let's say, for example, the University of Denver, where David Carl, for example, has really kind of built that program into a true powerhouse at the NCAA level. And I'm going to be honest here, if the Rangers were going to go after a more veteran head coach who has been an NHL head coach before, Mike Sullivan was the exact kind of guy I wanted to see this team hire. I thought Rick Tocchet could have been another decent name available and a potential target, but with Mike Sullivan obviously departing ways with the Pittsburgh Penguins, to me it was an absolute no-brainer that this was going to happen and that it should have been him, because the connection is already there with Chris Drury and Mike Sullivan, and with them, being a pretty big part of Team USA hockey, obviously, there is that connection there. Previously, they were at the Four Nations face-off together. Obviously Mike coached Chris back when he was still playing with the Rangers in his playing days. So there is that connection there with those guys. So it definitely makes a lot of sense kind of why this would end up happening. And of course, the Rangers can also pay him a lot of money, which they ended up doing. But getting back on track and kind of talking about why I think this was the right hire, with where the Rangers are at right now, to me, they were never going to enter into a full-on kind of retool or rebuild. Now, I know some fans want to see still, and kind of in the past have wanted to see this team over this season kind of maybe go into an actual rebuild and kind of strip things down and really sell off some assets, go in a real kind of rebuild mode. And to me, that was just never going to happen, especially after you go out there and you extend Igor Shesterkin, you extend Alexis Lafreniere, you go out there and you trade away Kakko for a couple picks, but you're also getting back a Will Borkin who you end up extending. You also go out there and trade for a win-now piece like a Carson Soucy midseason. You obviously, deal away a guy like Ryan Lindgren, but that helps you kind of accumulate some more assets to go out there more than likely this offseason and make some more big moves. So all the kind of moves that have been made from Chris Drury this season, to me, says this team is in a win-now mode. And going out there and trading away also, guys like Victor Mancini, who was arguably your top defense prospect at that point, also Philip Hedl, and a first-round pick for a player who's over the age of 30, to me, that definitely reinforces my point of saying this team has no intention at all of going into an actual rebuild. And I understand this team, with the way they're built right now, this second on paper, they don't look like a true Stanley Cup contender. You could definitely say that. That's fine. But you got to remember, this team has Igor Shesterkin, which we have seen him go on some incredible runs, multiple of them, and that's kind of the big thing as well. He has proven to be a very good, consistent goalie in the playoffs, which is exactly what you want. So when the lights shine brightest, he shows up and has already carried this team along to 2 different Eastern Conference Finals appearances, you could argue. And like I've talked about already, I really do think this team isn't necessarily that far off of actually getting back into the mix of things and really being a cup contender if this team is able to go out there and add in a true top pairing, or at least true high-end top 4 caliber defenseman. I think that can really change this D-core almost instantly, especially with a new and much better defensive head coach coming in. Obviously, Phil Housley was pretty awful at his job there. I think that's fair to say. Things just did not go great. I think the system just was not working with the players we had. So if you get a better defensive head coach in there, which I gotta imagine is going to happen, you also go out there and get at least one big upgrade there, adding in a true top 4 caliber guy, or ideally a top pairing guy to go alongside Foxy. But either way, if you can add in someone like that and then also get that, much improved defensive head coach, that really can change this D-core right away, especially with having an elite goalie like Igor Shesterkin. And then you also consider that going into next season there, JT Miller will have been here for a full season there. You hope guys like Will Cooley, Lafreniere, Offman, Perreault, Berard, all these young guys, if they can take even a little step forward in their game and, become for example, for Lafreniere, add on another, 10, 15 points there, maybe can, get a little more power play time possibly, just get a little more offensive production, round out his all-around game a little more there, keep up that physical play, that would be nice there, obviously. And, for a guy like Austin there, the offense hasn't quite come yet, but if Altman or Perreault, if you can at least get one of those guys, or Altman, Perreault, or Berard, one of those guys to kind of take a really big step there and kind of fill a true kind of top 6 spot, that could really help provide some solid depth for this team, especially if you're able to go out there and add in a real good third line center, which I am very hopeful for. I think having a guy like Sam Carrick as your 4C, your top 2 are Trocheck and Miller. I think that can be a pretty great kind of, 1, 2, and 4 punch. But adding in a really good, ideally third line center, I think is what this team really is lacking right now. Brodzinski, I think, plays a decent role here and there, playing that third or fourth line center spot. But I think ideally he's that kind of extra forward, or at least, more of so kind of being a winger. And then if you need to, you can put him at center there, him being your 5th kind of center, quote unquote. That I think could work out quite well, having that kind of depth in the middle, which we definitely know this team needs. So also you got a guy like Yusuf Parson there for some depth. But again, either one of those guys I don't really want to see as that full-time third line center. I think we need an upgrade at that spot. So if you can make that upgrade there, that also help provide some much better center depth that this team has obviously been lacking, especially you already have a guy like Zibanejad on the wing there. So you got Zib on the wing, you've got Brodzinski as like an extra forward or a winger, let's say. Yusuf Parson's down there somewhere as well. So that provides a lot more depth now, especially if you do add in that real third line center, which this team is lacking. They don't have an actual third line center quality guy. I think Brodzinski can play a bit of a role in that, but for a full season there, 82 games, ideally you want a better center to play that role kind of full time. So if they can go out there, add in a real impactful top 4 caliber defenseman, a true third line center, just those 2 moves alone, I think really can change this team, especially with a new coaching staff coming in here. And like I said, there's no way this defense coach is going to be as bad as Phil Housley. I know at the end of the day, the players have to go out there and get the job done, but I really do think that Phil Housley had a bit of a negative impact, at least, well, more than a bit probably, on this team defensively. So I really am hopeful with a new defensive coach there, a new defensive system, with some more improved players, some different players coming in here. I think this team really can get back on track fairly quickly to being an actual cup contender. Now, are they going to win a cup right away next season? Probably not, but I think this team can at least be a guaranteed, well, I kind of thought they're going into this season there, but they definitely should be a guaranteed playoff team next season there, under Mike Sullivan, of course. And I really do think that the New York Rangers made the right choice here by hiring Mike Sullivan, and hopefully he can hire some good assistants here to really round out this coaching staff and make it a whole lot better than what we saw last season. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Definitely don't forget, if you made it this far, to click that like and subscribe button, as it does help the channel out a ton, and I would really, really appreciate it. And also, don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Do you agree with me that Mike Sullivan was the right hire with where this team is at, and knowing they're not having really any intention at all going into rebuild? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.